Welcome to Growing Up Boomer. I'm your host, Padre, and this podcast is dedicated to the life and times of the baby boomer generation. The show is loosely scripted, and sometimes we'll go down rabbit holes, and where it leads us to, one will never know. This podcast can be informative, funny, and sometimes irreverent. But most of all, we hope you find it entertaining. Hey, Professor, how's it going?
Really good, Padre. How about you?
Man, you know what? I cannot complain. But you know what they say? When you get our age, every day's a gift.
Every day is a gift, and who cares if you can complain? Complain all you want. I ain't listening.
Well, every day's a gift. That's why they call it the present.
Yeah, exactly. There's a yuck for you. Here you go. Cool, good.
All right. Well, you know what today's podcast is on, right?
Yeah, it's on the Brooklyn Dodgers.
Well, you know what? That's one of my movies, baby. That is it, right?
No, we're talking about movies and racism.
Yes, in Hollywood, and especially during baby boomers years.
Baby boomers and the civil rights era.
Right.
Or prelude leading up to that. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? The first thing you have to remember is that basically Hollywood was pretty racist when it came to movies.
Back then, absolutely.
Yeah, and it was all their preconceived ideas.
Sure, absolutely.
Like for instance, from like the 1910s or the 1930s, right? Just two movies I have to mention. Okay. Birth of a Nation.
Okay.
And The Jazz Singer.
Okay. Great.
My daughter was a Pepperdine.
Right.
And she was in telecommunication to production, so they had to watch movies. She wanted to be a producer at one time. Oh, I got a great story for you as well, speaking of being a producer.
Okay.
She used to have a friend, and I can't remember what her name was. I'm thinking her name is like Isabella. Jenny would talk about going over this house and just watching movies, and the father was really cool. And so we were lucky enough that she went to Florence.
Yeah, I kind of remember that.
Yeah, right? This was around the 9/11. Mm-hmm. In which case we told her she'd have to stay over there for Christmas because we couldn't afford for her to come back. But after 9/11, of course, the price drops on airline tickets. What ends up happening, she saw, pictures, just beautiful pictures of Europe.
Oh, it's beautiful, yeah.
Yeah. Well, all of a sudden she says, by the way, my friend's dad was working in Paris, and he came down and visited us. And I said, oh, okay. And he shows me the picture, and I'm looking at the picture, and I'm going, this guy looks like Jeff Bridges. And she goes, it is. I said, what? And she knows I am a big Jeff Bridges fan ever since Thunderbolt and Lightfoot with Clint Eastwood. Oh, God, a guy, he is amazing to me. And so when they graduated, my daughter says, Dad, don't embarrass me. Don't go up to him and talk to him. I said, okay, I promise. And there he was, just in a brown, look like suit, kind of fedora, just really cool guy. No, I can't. Yeah. Oh, yeah. But yeah, and so one of the movies required was Birth of a Nation.
Okay.
And I told her, I said, you be ready. This one is really bad. And it is. I
haven't seen it, so I don't know.
Oh, no. You don't want to see it. Let me just tell you about it.
Okay.
It portrays the KKK as the good guys.
Oh, okay.
Okay? It's an all-white cast in blackface.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And about how the white people then restore order and government, and this is how things should be. It is awful.
Wow. The movies that I'm talking about and going to talk about today aren't anything like that.
Oh, no. Well, I'm just going over how bad the movies were.
No, I get that, yeah.
Oh, God. And The Jazz Singer, do you ever see The Jazz Singer with...
No.
Oh, man, with... but Al Jolson.
Al Jolson, of course.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. He was a jazz singer. And, of course, he was a cantor in a Jewish temple, but he wanted to be a jazz singer. And in order to be a jazz singer, he had to put on blackface.
Oh, geez.
And it was the first talking movie, and he's singing Mammy.
Wow.
In blackface.
Yeah.
This is the kind of movies they made back then.
Yeah.
And think about how they portrayed all the minorities.
Yeah.
I mean, we already talked about African Americans. I mean,
Right.
just what Birth of the Nation was terrible. East Asians.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, there was only one woman that was actually Chinese that starred in these movies. Most of them were white people with makeup.
Wow.
Oh, they were just terrible. Anna Mae Wong. And
Wow.
she would come out in movies like Dragon Lady and Return of the Dragon Lady and stuff like that. I mean, just awful. And needless to say, how about Native Americans?
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
or even how about West Asians? And when I say West
Sure.
Asians, like in India and
India. Yeah.
Pakistan,
Sure. Yeah.
you're right.
That's the Near East. Yeah.
Yeah, and the whole thing was, this is what kills me, is that every depiction in the old days, like for instance, Rudolph Valentino, the Sheik, and these are cultures that were way advanced. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
let's face it, Europe is still living in caves, and these people are building libraries and way ahead of the Europeans.
I don't know if the Europeans are going to agree with that, but that's okay.
Oh no, let's look at history, man. All right. I mean, let's face it. And it's so funny that even when they had people depicted as Asians, like for instance, John Wayne as Genghis Khan. Now, how did that happen? Exactly.
Everybody else said no.
Like, they did everything just so that way they can get people in. Right,
Sure.
John Wayne was a big draw, and so
Yeah,
Genghis
sure,
Khan.
yeah, they want to sell tickets. Just
Yeah,
that's the commercialism part.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Agnes Moorehead was in it, and Susan Hayward. Right.
Wow.
I mean, not a nation to be found.
Yeah.
Okay, but that was it. And you know what? We didn't stop it in Hollywood, right?
Uh-huh.
But then again, they are actors.
They are. That's true.
Okay, they are actors, and they can play anybody they want. But you remember The Year Living Dangerously with the young Mel Gibson?
Nope.
Wow, what a movie that is. Linda Hunt won Best Supporting Actress for playing Billy Quao.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
A male Indonesian.
Yeah. Well, that's good acting.
Oh, she was excellent.
Yeah.
She deserved it. But how about Ben Kingsley? He played Gandhi.
Yeah. Well, he was good in that.
Oh, he was excellent.
That
Don't
was
get me
really
wrong.
good. Yeah.
Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. I mean, these people were awesome in their parts. But you know what? I used to watch, and Ben Kingsley's made some bad movies and stuff like that, but I'd still watch them. But now I can't get out of my head him being Trevor Slady, which is a character in Iron Man 3, and he played the Mandarin.
Somehow Kingsley doesn't fit that role.
Well, no, he played it too good, so I can't.
Okay.
And he's a drugged out, washed up actor. This guy hires him to play the Mandarin, a terrorist, right?
Yeah.
And he plays it to the hilt.
Well,
and then they discover him. He says, "Oh, I'm all interested. The guy gives me drugs and women. I'm happy." And then he comes out in what was it, Legend of the Ten Rings, and he's hilarious.
Wow.
But I can't. I used to look at him as, Gandhi, what a great. And now this is all I can see. It's Ben Kingsley as this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as you know, as the 40s came around, they started actually addressing racism. Not saying that there wasn't any racist movies, but I'm just starting to address.
It started to,
and really started in the 50s and came to fruition in the 60s and 70s.
Right. Yeah. The late 50s, it really started to
You're
really
absolutely
take off.
right.
In the 60s, 70s is where,
Yeah. Did you have any movies that you felt that influenced you watching, dealing with racism?
I mean, there's a couple of classic movies out there. I mean, that are well known. To Kill a Mockingbird certainly is one of them, which is just a classic. And it was released in 1962, and it was like a coming of age legal crime drama, if you will, starring Gregory Peck and Mary Badham. And Peck does they all do a great job. But really, it's as much a story about him defending a black man who's accused of rape, and him trying to educate his kids about about being fair to everybody, and everybody's equal, and there's no color differences and all of that. So, I mean, it really was a film that really, to me, it was a great. Of course, it's a classic, and it won Academy Awards and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So, but it was really, really well done, and so yeah, that was one that I really enjoyed about that. And I don't know, if you want to. I mean, the movie, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard for me to think that people won't. But it was interesting that you're talking about the awareness, because the local judge went to Atticus Finch and asked him if he would defend this black man. And Atticus thought about it, and he obviously said yes. And I was thinking about that for a local judge in Alabama in the 30s, because that's what the movie depicts.
Right.
Okay. If a judge was more of a racist inclination, might have chosen a different attorney. So, but he didn't. Okay. He chose this particular one. And so I don't know if that's part of the writer's, of course, it was based on a book, obviously, in 1960. So the movie followed pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I can't think about her mindset, but it just maybe, obviously there was a change there. Things were happening.
Right.
Things were starting to evolve. And the whole idea of racism and countering racism really started to take off. So, I mean, it was a good film. It was really well done. Acting was great. And I think also, if I'm not mistaken, I think that film also ended up in the Library of Congress.
I believe you're right.
Yeah, it's a National Film Registry. Absolutely,
yes.
Yeah. It was really cool.
And you know who got their start there? Not their start, but one of his pivotal roles?
I can tell you. How about Robert Duvall?
You are correct, sir. Ding, 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 ding. You are correct. He was Boo.
He was Boo. He was Boo.
Yeah, and he had hair.
Cool.
And he had hair.
Right. Well, why are you laughing? I don't have hair.
Neither of us do.
Yeah, well, whatever. Anyway, but yeah, no, it was a wonderful film. In fact, I don't know what the statistics are on successful films these days, but it made 6 times its budget at the box office.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what the metric is these days, what's good or bad, but apparently that was a really good thing.
Well, yeah. Well, just think, it was basically almost a stage play.
True.
Most of it took place in the courthouse.
Yep.
So that was good. You're right. It was a fantastic movie.
It was a great movie.
Yeah. So. Speaking of that, I also have a movie by Gregory Peck.
Okay. Which one?
Gentleman's Agreement.
Gentleman's Agreement. I'm not sure if I've seen that one.
Oh, it is. You need to see it. It is an awesome movie. Gregory Peck plays Philip Green, right, who's a widower. He moves to New York with his mom, taking care of his mom and his son. He is asked to do by the editor a story on anti-Semitism.
Okay.
And so what ends up happening, he meets the niece of the editor, right? Okay. And he's kind of upset that the fact that the idea came from the niece. And that and his mom sets him straight.
Okay.
That, it's kind of like, I can't believe that this is I'm doing a story that was recommended by a woman, and the mom sets him straight.
Yeah,
the story's a good story no matter who recommends a story.
Yeah. When did that movie come out?
It came out in 1947.
Oh wow, early.
46 or 47. Just the start of the baby boomers.
Barely a baby boomer movie. Yep.
Yeah, okay. Just starting at the baby boomer movies. And what ends up happening, he decides to take the story, and he then says, to write the story better, he pretends, he's a Gentile, but he pretends that he's Jewish. And then he finds that people will not allow him to go into hotels and just in New York.
Oh, yeah.
New York, right? And then what ends up happening is that he's dating Kathy is her name, the editor's the niece, and he tells her what he's doing, and she's upset about it.
Oh wow!
Okay. In other words, she's the one that has this liberal idea, but she doesn't want to be seen dating a Jewish guy.
Ooh, a little bit of hypocrite.
Then she realizes how racist she is.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you could say all these platitudes about racism and everything, but until it comes to your front porch and how you handle it
Yeah.
is a completely different story.
Yeah.
And
You know what? That's, yeah. Yeah.
and so, and then ends up happening. I think it's John Garfield. His buddy comes back from the war. Now, here's this guy fighting the war against Germany. And then what ends up happening, he can't find a place to live because he's Jewish.
Oh, boy.
Well, so it's just a fantastic movie.
Yeah.
You know, it was one of those that it just, with me, I remember seeing it was on Channel 13.
Okay.
Which is our local station or whatever. And
Sure.
I was a small kid, and it just amazes because I remember Gregory Peck. Are you not, you know, he had that commanding voice. I remember the part, he's at a hotel and he says, "Are you not letting me in because I'm Jewish?" And
Right.
I'm going like, wow.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
that to me, that was an awesome, awesome movie for me.
Cool.
You
Good.
know? Hey, and how about any other movies that you liked that really?
Well, you know, you were just saying that, and you just talked about where she, you know, was basically was liberal minded and everything else until she was smacked in the face with it. Kind of similarly with Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, but a little bit different. Which is a great movie. That was out in '67, and you know, it's a romantic comedy.
Yeah.
And it was basically one of the few films back then to depict an interracial marriage.
Right.
In a positive light. And because it was illegal. In fact, I think when that movie came out, it was still illegal in 17 states.
You're right.
So the timing of it was interesting. Of course, you know, it's Tracy and Hepburn.
Oh, yeah.
They starred in it. So, you know, that's great. And interesting, it was Spencer Tracy's last role.
You're correct.
Because he actually died 17 days later. And what I understand is Hepburn never watched the completed film, saying it would be too painful for her.
Yeah.
But what's really good. So she is a 23-year-old white woman returning from Hawaii with to a vacation to her parents' home in San Francisco with Dr. John Prentice, who's a 37-year-old black widower. And of course, they became engaged. And Joanna's parents are a newspaper editor and Christina, who owns an art gallery. And they're liberal-minded, but they were absolutely stunned and shocked that their daughter is engaged to a man of a different race. And the Christina's the mother, gradually accepts the situation, but the father, Matt, he objects because of the likely unhappiness and insurmountable problems that the couple's going to face, you know, back in those days. And so John, who is the black who's Sidney Poitier, did I say that, Sidney Poitier?
Yeah,
of course he's in there. Yeah. And tells the parents that he will withdraw unless both parents give their just complete blessing. And actually, John was supposed to go to Geneva for a few months to work with the World Health Organization, and he was the answer would determine whether Joanna, who is engaged to, would follow him. Anyway, so Joanna invites John's parents to come up from L.A. So they come up, but John never told them about Joanna that she's white. So similar situation happens. They come over for dinner, and they are just blown away. Okay, as far as that's concerned, and so it turns out that both the moms basically are feeling positive and are accepting it, but both the dads are totally against it. And so, you know, things continue, and they're talking about their differences and so on. I mean, bottom line, it turns out that Matt finally decides that he, both fathers basically turn it around and accept it. And that's basically what happens at the end. So that was it. But it was a good movie. It was funny. Okay, it was good. We're talking, you know, Spencer Tracy, Sidney Poitier, Katharine Hepburn. And Catherine Houghton is, if I recall correctly, is Katharine Hepburn's niece. Yeah. So great one. It was another good movie. Absolutely.
Oh yeah. They're probably one of those movies people don't realize how much it affected the baby boomers when they came
absolutely.
out.
Well, I mean, I you know, as a side story, you know, I was living in Manhattan in those times, in those days, in the early 60s, early to mid, almost late 60s. And I remember that well. I remember going to a civil rights rally. And yeah, it was definitely a big deal going on. I also, and that was also during the time of Black Panthers and all of that. And I remember volunteering for SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, down there. So, I mean, it was a big deal.
Yes, it was
going on there. And I, in a sense, I mean, I wasn't in the South, but I was in a big city, and it definitely was. It was out there, and it was the topic that was going on. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Another movie.
Excellent and influential movie.
Absolutely. Yeah.
For me, though, the Jackie Robinson story, where he played himself in the movie.
Yeah, no, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And I've got a good friend, all right? His name's Jethro White. We have a big kick out of that since he's an African-American.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was going to ask that question.
We have a great, and every time me and Jethro get together, we talk about the inequalities that it would happen with Jackie Robinson. In order to get an African-American into the majors, they had to be a college graduate. They had to have served in the military as an officer. And so, I mean, they had all of these plateaus that they had to meet.
Was this true?
Yeah. In which case, a white ball player, some of them didn't even have a 5th grade education.
Yeah, wow.
But in order to get into there, you had to have all of this.
Wow.
And
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Oh, yeah. He was a graduate from UCLA. He made All-American in track, football, and baseball. He was playing football in Hawaii when he was drafted. He was a second lieutenant and a commander of a tank brigade.
Wow.
And he kind of got in trouble because he went to town and I think he was in Fort Hood, and he was going back to the base in a bus, and they told him to get to the back of the bus. He said, nope, not doing it. And so he was the kind of guy that they were looking for, right? He didn't get violent. He just says, I'm not doing it.
Yep.
Right. And so, but I mean, we're always talking about that. He says, you had to check off all of these boxes, and most of these white ball players don't have a 5th grade education. To me, that was just to hear that and to see that was just, to see that movie was just, I mean, first of all, it's about the Dodgers.
It's about the Dodgers baseball. I get that.
Yeah. And see my hat, a Brooklyn hat.
Yeah, right? I know.
But he was just...
You do take that hat off when you shower, right?
If I remember.
Oh, if you remember. Okay. Here you go. Okay.
But yeah, but to me, it was just an amazing story. And I've read the books that he's written and stuff like that. I mean, he is just, I Never Had It Made. It was a great book. If you want to read about Jackie Robinson, that's a great book. He wrote it just before he passed away.
Okay.
All right. But yeah, to me, that one was just like, wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was just really, really impressed with that one.
Cool. Good.
Any other ones that you had?
Yeah, there's a couple of other ones, but we got to do West Side Story.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, West Side Story to me it's just another classic. It's just it's won so many awards. It came out in 1961, and it kind of, I mean, I've seen it multiple times.
Yes, because
it was filmed the playground in the movie.
Yeah,
in the original movie, I lived about 6 to 8 blocks from there.
No way.
In Manhattan. And now it's telling the story of rival gangs, the Jets and the Sharks, in the late 50s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
And I lived in Manhattan. I moved there in 61, and that's when this movie was released. So they were filming it probably when I was living right there.
Yeah.
And I went to middle school right down the street from me. And I remember in middle school, I guess in between the periods.
Yes.
Okay. And you'd switch classrooms and everything else. People rotated, and they were door monitors. And so you held the doors open for them to go up and down the stairs. So I was a door monitor, and I'm just standing there minding my own business. And 5 sharks come up and surround me and ask me, "Are you a Jet?" This is serious. This is true. Okay. Are you a Jet? And I said, no. And they asked me again, are you a jet? I said, no. And boom, they popped me right in my solar plexus. And then they went on about their business. So that's why this movie is a little extra special to me. It was in the neighborhood. Okay. So anyway, but it's a great story. When you're a jet all the way from your first cigarette to your last dying day. I mean, it's a musical.
Yeah.
It just adds a whole nother dimension to it.
And
it's a great story, between
yes, it is.
the jets being the white people, the white guys.
Yes. So you'd be a jet, and I'd be a shark.
I'd be a jet, yeah, and Puerto Rican. Okay, specifically Puerto Rican.
Wow.
With the sharks. But it was a great movie and a love story.
Yeah.
Just the lyrics are great. I just love that movie. I can watch it over and over and again.
Oh, it's a great movie. You're really right. It's a great movie.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
The funny thing is, you mentioned it. Oh, yeah, Puerto Rican. Right. This is the thing that kills me about Latino and Hispanic.
Okay.
Right. It's like people who they call white.
Okay.
All right. I mean, you could be Irish, French, English, Italian.
Yeah.
Right. My point being is that every culture has its own specific traditions, cuisines, stuff like that. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
So it just bothers me that everybody lumps everybody into one class.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that, because in the movie, trying to think of what scene it was, but yeah, they're saying Mick. They were the epithets for Italian, okay,
yes,
and Irish, and so on and so forth. Interesting thing about this movie, I'm not sure if this is true or not, but there is, and this may be one of the earlier depictions, if you will, or whatever, coming out of maybe a non-binary person, because there's one character in there called Anybody's.
Yes.
Okay. She tomboyish, this or that, whatever. It could be, in addition to the racism, it could be a little bit of that also, which just came to me because I watched the movie again because I love it. So watching it, I wanted to show my granddaughter.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of good things about the movie.
Yeah.
So
there's
so many good movies out
excellent,
there.
Excellent movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Really good.
In America.
I just met a girl named Maria. And suddenly I get that.
I've got a very good friend. I got a very good friend that I used to work with, and she always used to tell me, she was Puerto Rican. She grew up, her name's Annabelle. She bleeds pinstripes, okay? And she used to tell me, you guys like your food way too hot. Because you think about Cuban food and you think about Puerto Rican food is a lot different than Mexican food.
It's different flavors, different seasoning.
Exactly. It has a spice to it, but it's not overwhelming. It's a very, very flavorful Puerto Rican food, Cuban food. We here, Mexico, we just like to put ourselves through heck. When my mom made chili, it was like battery acid. Okay.
Yeah, you like the hot stuff.
We like the hot stuff.
Yeah.
When you say Spanish, you speak Spanish.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you know what? People in Mexico cannot communicate with people from Brazil.
Well, that's Portuguese.
Exactly. So
it's not Spanish.
It is almost different languages altogether.
Well, it is a different language, even though they came from the same place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that, it just bothers me that we lump everybody into things. And
the stereotype stuff? Yeah. Absolutely.
It's like, Hispanics. Oh, hey, speaking of Hispanic, we talked about Giant on James Dean. Just real quick on that one, and this is one that very interesting to me, is because we talked about racism in Giant against Latinos, specifically Mexicans.
Right.
The funny thing on that one, and it took somebody from the outside to come in to show them a better way. There's a scene in Dennis Hopper, and it kind of reminds me of like Fiddler on the Roof.
Okay.
When the young lady marries a Gentile, the Russian. Okay. The same thing happens in Giant.
Okay.
But Dennis Hopper falls in love with this Mexican young lady and marries her. Okay. And he doesn't tell his mom and dad till after they're married.
Okay.
All right. Now, I thought this was going to be a big scene, when the first time I watched it, because Rock Hudson can't stand Mexicans, just can't stand them. But he gets softer, and, as his wife, Elizabeth Taylor. And it's so funny is because I kind of went through the same thing when I say that. Okay. If you remember, my brother's last name is Towning.
Okay.
Okay. So that means my mom remarried.
Right.
And I remember this was, I must have been about 8, 9 years old. And I remember my dad's parents were upset that he was dating a Mexican. Okay. But now my family was upset that she was dating a white guy.
Sure. Yeah.
So it kind of goes both ways, doesn't it?
Yeah. Okay.
And once they got to know each other, they were best of friends.
So I could see it now, a movie of you and your brother's family and doing all of that. There you go, based on that story.
It was one of those things is that people have these stereotypes, but once they get to know the individual, they go, hey, they're no different than we are. That's what counts.
Well, there's comfort in familiarity.
Yes.
And there's a lot of comfort there. And so you get in unfamiliar surroundings or around unfamiliar people or things different, then you tend to be protective and so on. So, and it's unfortunate.
Okay, I tell you what do you say? We're running a little long. What do you say we end this one?
Okay.
Okay, we'll pick it up. We'll pick up the rest next week. All right, my man. Well, you have a great day, okay?
All right, you too.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
We'd like to thank you for listening and remind you if you happen to have any baby boomer topics you'd like us to cover, just email us at growingupboomer@gmail.com. And until next time, may God bless.